Number 3 is Will Fuller, who is injured and only played 375 snaps. And then number 4 is Lamar Miller at 74.6. He's a running back. Who cares? Beyond that, everybody's in the 60s or lower.
Right. So you got...
And the offensive line is very low.
2 pretty elite guys. Everyone else in the 60s or worse.
Yes. And that includes Julian Davenport, the starting left tackle, at 52.9.
Yeah.
Martinez Rankin, who's played 430 snaps on the O-line at 42. And that's been the story. This O-line grades horribly. And Watson has faced the most pressure in the NFL, some of it on his own, but they've still managed to be productive on offense.
Right. It's kind of ridiculous. Obviously, the fact that those two are very good is part of the reason it's been successful. But even given that, it should be possible to slow down one connection when that's all you have, particularly when the offensive line is that bad. I think Deshaun Watson's ability to move around, scramble, evade pressure, etc., makes it harder still. Because, you don't just have to deal with covering Nuke Hopkins. You have to deal with when things break down and, the scramble drill starts and you have to adjust and all that kind of thing because Deshaun Watson can take off and make plays in the backfield and running. It's a lot more to deal with as a defense. So that's part of the issue. But this Nuke Hopkins season has been ridiculous.
Yeah, really
he has 159 targets this season, which actually isn't even close to his highest targeted seasons. Like, he's been up, I think, 200 at one point.
Yep.
115 receptions, so that's catching 72.3% of his targets. No drops. That's the highest total we've ever seen over a season with no drops whatsoever. And it's not like these are all routine catches. Like, despite the fact that he has no drops, we have multiple freaky one-handed catches in there. Like, these have been high-level difficulty catches that he's been bringing in despite not dropping anything.
Yeah, it really has been an exceptional year. Highest grade we've given since 2006, tied for the highest grade, right? And then I'm looking at Watson's breakdown here. He has a bunch of games over 70+. Those are your solid grades. A few in the 50s and 60s, and 2 disastrous games in there. So he's an 82.6 overall. But, and I hate to do this if you take out 2 games, but just for the sake of argument, if you take out 2 games, he's a high 80s quarterback, which puts him in the top 7 or 8, right? So if you're getting that level of play from Watson, behind a bad offensive line and with only Nuke to throw to and a revolving door of other guys, first off, I think the future for the Texans looks really good if that's the case, because this offense has to get better talent-wise. But secondly, this is why I think it's going to be a great matchup. Watson can take over a game. Luck is our number 3 quarterback. He could take over a game. This is going to be a shootout.
Yeah, in theory. And it's also it's interesting because with the Colts defense, the thing that's making them successful is that they have been playing this relatively idiot-proof system that doesn't require thinking or adjustment or any of this kind of stuff. But given that the Texans are basically just Watson to Nuke, the game plan playing them should theoretically be to double Nuke every single play and force him to beat you with somebody else, anybody else, doesn't matter. Just take him away, right? It's not that hard to do. We've seen the Patriots, dedicate themselves to stopping one specific player on an offense. It's very possible. Now, Nuke will make some plays anyway because he's that kind of freak, but you can dramatically limit the opportunities he has to make plays. But in order to do that, you have to go away from your vanilla cookie-cutter system that just lets you line up and play. You actually have to change things around and insert some specific things that require thinking and communication and all that kind of stuff. So you would feel that the Colts probably don't want to do that. They just want to ride the horse that brought them there.
Probably.
Which is playing into the Texans' game plan.
Yeah,
because
we'll see if
all they have is Watson to Hopkins.
They'll still probably be forcing him the football. A couple other interesting Watson numbers, too. 60 scrambles. That's times he dropped back to pass and then took off to run.
Yep.
That ties Michael Vick for the most in the PFF era. So that's a huge part of the game. And all of the numbers when he throws the ball outside the pocket, 5 touchdowns and a ton of yards. I mean, he's in the top 2 or 3 in the NFL. So he is one of those quarterbacks. And again, talking to Zach about what he was doing at Clemson, he was a lot of like one read and take off.
Yeah.
But this is 1 read, 2 reads, and then make a play. This is different.
Yeah.
And that has made him really, because when you give him 1 read to throw the ball, he's very good. But now his ability to extend plays, while he always had it in him, he didn't always show it at Clemson, and that's made him really dangerous.
But the other thing is his play under pressure has, or at least his play under pressure has been, I would say unsustainably productive, only he's been sustaining it for a hell of a long time now. So
you know what is unsustainable? All right. So look, when you look at Watson from a 2-year perspective, his stats are exceptional. Last year we were sitting there saying he hasn't played as well as the stats show. This year would still be the case. His PFF grade's lower than the stats would indicate. I think just the drop rate, he led the league in drop rate for the second straight year.
Yeah.
That is an uncontrollable thing. Of course, you've got Hopkins, right? Padding that.
0 drops from 170-odd targets. So I know I said it was.
And I know people hate when we do this, but if you just give him a league average drop rate over the last 2 years, which is something he can't control, his passer rating probably drops 8 or 10 points. So he hasn't played as well as the stats have showed. But the under pressure numbers, 88.2 passer rating is also something that could come
So
down.
that's the number 2 passer rating in the NFL, behind only Nick Foles, who obviously hasn't had long enough for that to come down. You know, I think that one is a product of volatility and short sample sizes. Deshaun Watson at 88.2, despite being the number 1 pressured quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, those things should not intersect. The guy that is pressured the most in the NFL should not have the highest passer rating when pressured. For example, the guy that's number 2 in terms of pressure is Josh Allen, and his passer rating when pressured is 47, which is
that went up.
Like almost dead last.
That went up over the last couple of weeks.
Right. But the point is, the guys that are at the top of the pressured list should not have the highest passer rating.
Right. So
Josh Rosen is number 4. His passer rating is 38. Those guys should not be good at this, but Deshaun Watson seems to be consistently able to do it. I'm sure there's a degree to which this will come down to earth a little bit, for no other reason than the PFF grade isn't as good. So again, when the grades and the numbers don't match up, typically the numbers will come back. So I would suspect his play under pressure comes back down to earth a little bit long term. But at least for the moment, he's able to do it at an incredibly high rate. And a little bit like Russell Wilson, he's kind of at home when he's playing this sandlot, ad-libbing, just make something happen game.
Right.
Like, a lot of quarterbacks, that would just be a death sentence to have their, like, can you imagine Kirk Cousins having to play that way? He said, right, Kurt, drop back. No. There'll be a pressure pretty immediately. Run around, make something happen. Like, it would just be game over.
Well, this
done.
But this is the danger. Do you really want to pressure, or do you want to play contain? And I think you have to mix that up, because he will take sacks too.
Right. But for Wilson
a lot of
and Watson, I think they're kind of at home playing that game and able to get really good results doing it.
Yeah, and the one final number I'll show, I tweeted out yesterday, the most sacks charged directly to the quarterback. It's Dak Prescott with 15. We'll talk about him in a minute. Deshaun Watson with 14. It's actually all playoff quarterbacks other than Josh Rosen. But so that's 14 times that Watson either left a clean pocket and got sacked, or he dropped back too far and his linemen were blocking for a different pocket and they lost leverage, or he stepped up into a sack. So that's kind of the risk reward when you're coming after Deshaun Watson. You'll get some negative plays in there if you're looking for him, but he'll burn you, behind the coverage as well. So I think it's a fascinating matchup, even though we've already seen it twice. Watson in luck on the big stage. It's Watson's first playoff game. I just think we're in for a very fun NFL over the next few years with all these young quarterbacks. Where are you leaning on in this one?
I'm going to go with the Colts. I'm going to ride the hot hand, and I continually am waiting for the wheels to fall off this Texans bandwagon. So this is the chance. I'm
going with the Colts again, or as well. If for nothing else, I trust luck down the stretch. If this is a close game, as I anticipate it to be, I anticipate a shootout, and Luck has that knack for making things happen in the fourth quarter. Not that Watson doesn't, but Luck's got this history of making plays down the stretch. I think he pulls one out.
Plus, the road team's 2-0. I mean,
of course,
road team wins.
That trend,
obviously,
that trend matters a lot.
Yeah.
League, 3 of them